What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video and to the channel. So I've had my F80 M3 for about 8 months now already, and this car has been an absolute blast to own and drive. I absolutely love this car. For those of you maybe new here, this is my 2018 F80 M3 with only 21,000 miles on it in this gorgeous individual Avis blue metallic color. It has the competition package, the executive package, and the driver's assistance package, so it's pretty much the perfect spec for me, at least. Now, as I mentioned a bunch of times already, this is my dream car. This is my dream BMW. I had been wanting this car since before I even got my E90, which I still have, obviously, and I got that car 6 years ago. And before I even got that car, I had my eyes set on this car. And 8 months ago, I was finally able to purchase one. And here we are 8 months later, and I've had so much fun with this car. Now, since this was my dream car, I always thought this car would be, like perfect. I never really thought about the stuff I might not like about this car or the stuff I might find annoying about this car. Prior to buying this F80, I never even driven an F80 M3 or even sat in one. So when I went to go buy this car, that was my first time driving an F80 M3. So I went in, without any sort of assumptions or experience. And obviously during the first drive, I was just in awe. I was just so hyped and excited that I was buying my dream car. So I didn't really notice anything that I could potentially find annoying about the car, or I didn't notice anything that I might not like about the car. I was just hyped that I was buying my dream car that I've been wanting for over 6 years. So now that I've had the car for the past 8 months, I have definitely found some things that I kind of don't like or that I find annoying about this car. So in this video, I'm going to go over 4 things that I hate about my F80 M3. Now, hate is a strong word. I wouldn't say I hate these things, but I definitely dislike them and or find them annoying. Now, I was actually trying to think of 5 things that I hate about this car, but I could not come up with a 5th thing because this car is still nearly perfect. So I just ended up going with the 4 things that I could think of. So starting with number 4, my least dislike thing about the car, that has to be the road noise that this car produces. Now, as I mentioned already, this car has the competition package, as you guys can see by the 666M wheels here. And for those of you who may not know, these are 20-inch wheels, so they are big wheels with pretty thin tires. As you guys can see, the front tire here is pretty thin, and as you guys can see, the size there, 265 by 30 with the rim size of 20. You can see not much thickness there. And then in the rear, also pretty thin for being rear tires. As you guys can see there, the tire size is 285 by 30 by 20. So yeah, this wheel and tire setup just produces so much road noise inside the cabin. It is unbearable at times. Like, there's just sometimes where I have to turn up my music like extra loud just so I can hear it because of the road noise coming from the wheels. Now, I know this is a high-end luxury sports car. This is not meant to be a comfortable car, really. So I'm not surprised that the road noise is that loud inside the cabin. But regardless, it still is annoying at times, and it does bother me. Now, I feel like I could reduce that once I get, a different set of aftermarket wheels with different tires. I feel like there are certain tires that don't make as much road noise. From what it seems, Michelin tires just produce a lot of road noise because I even have Michelin tires on my Honda Insight, which is just, a regular economy hybrid car. And even those tires, those have like, I think 15 or 16-inch wheels, like pretty small wheels with really thick tires. Even those tires produce a lot of road noise inside the car. So to me, it just seems like Michelin tires just produce a lot of road noise. Now, I'm not 100% sure that is true. Maybe you guys could let me know in the comment section, but that's what it seems so far because I had the 437M wheels on my F30 previously, and the same thing, the road noise was pretty loud inside the cabin of that car. Now, those are 19-inch wheels, obviously. These are 20, so it wasn't as bad, but these 666M wheels are even worse than that one. So yeah, that's why it seems to me Michelin tires just aren't really good at, reducing the road noise. So yeah, road noise is definitely an annoyance I have with this car. So moving on to number 3. Number 3 has to do with the transmission. So this F80 has the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. It is not a manual. So in order to show you guys what I'm talking about, let's go ahead and hop inside the car here. So for those of you who may not know, the DCT does not have like a parking button or a parking gear to put the car into park. So in order to put the car into park, I'm gonna go ahead and start the engine here so I can show you guys. So right now it's in park, but if I shift to drive, so you can see there. So let's just say you finished the drive and you just parked and you go to turn off the car. There is no, like I said, there's no parking button or parking gear to shift the transmission into. All you do is just turn the engine off. As you guys see there, it just automatically goes into park. Now, this specifically isn't really that big of a deal because, I mean, it's honestly one less, motion, one less thing you have to do to put the car into park. You don't have to do anything with the transmission. You just park and turn off the car, automatically goes into park. The annoyance comes when you open the door before you turn the car off. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I tend to open my car door before I end up turning off the car sometimes, or a good amount of times. And when the car is on, here, let me show you guys again. Turn the car back on. Put it in drive. So sometimes when I finish up parking, I will open the door, because for me personally, I tend to open my door a lot whenever I'm parking, so that I can see like how well of a parking job I did, to see if I'm close to something, if I'm in the lines, and then turn off the car, because that's what I used to do in my F30, and that's what I still do in my E90. So I'm in that habit of sometimes opening the door first, then turning off the car. But when you open the door in this car, it will automatically shift to neutral. So when that happens, I'm like, oh, I need to close the door, and then I forget that I need to put the car back in drive and then turn off the car. So I end up just leaving it in neutral, and then I go to turn off the car, and then this warning comes up and the car doesn't turn off because it's in neutral. And then I have to turn the car on again, put the car in drive, and then turn off the car. So yeah, that is a pretty annoying thing about this car. Now, if you don't have the same habit as me of opening the door before I turn the engine off, this really won't be an issue for you. But for me and those of you who have this habit of opening the door and then pressing the ignition button to turn the engine off, this will be an annoyance, because you then have to close the door, put the car in drive again, then turn the engine off again, and it's just kind of annoying. And when you're in a rush, it slows you down. And yeah, I find myself getting pretty annoyed whenever this happens, and it does happen pretty frequently. For some reason, I'm still in this same habit, probably because I still drive my E90 most of the time, and I can do that in that car because it's just a regular automatic. So yeah, in my case, this is a little quirk about the transmission that I really don't like. But again, if you don't have this habit, this really won't be an issue for you. So moving on to number 2, my second most disliked thing about this car. Now this one is something that I've already mentioned before, and that I feel like is common knowledge at this point that a lot of people don't like about this car, and that is the exhaust sound. For how good this car looks, the exhaust sound does not live up to the look of this car. And it is really disappointing to hear how this car sounds sometimes whenever I'm driving it, especially in the higher RPMs. In case you weren't aware, the exhaust sound on this car has so much rasp, like I said, especially at the higher RPMs, and it really just does not sound good. Now at lower RPMs, it does sound very good, but once you get past like 4,000, 5,000 RPM, it starts to sound pretty raspy. Now I still have the stock exhaust. There's nothing that has been changed on the exhaust setup. Everything is 100% stock. So I am just speaking in regards to the stock exhaust setup on these cars. Obviously, there are aftermarket options that can make this car sound a lot better. Now, this is something that I was aware of and that I didn't know about going into buying this car. Like, I had heard them obviously on the street at car shows, and I had always known that they didn't really sound that good. So this one wasn't a surprise. Now, before actually buying one myself, I actually thought they sounded much worse. But after getting this one and really listening to it, and really getting exposed to how it sounds like inside the car, it honestly isn't as bad as I thought it was before I bought the car. So let me just go ahead and show you guys some exhaust clips in case you don't know what I'm talking about when I say the exhaust sounds raspy. So yeah, hopefully that was able to give you guys an idea of what I mean when I say raspy. At the higher RPMs, it just sounds weird, like not good is the only way I can describe it. It just doesn't sound very appealing to hear and listen to, at least for me personally. Again, at the lower RPMs, it sounds very good, but at the higher RPMs, that's where it just doesn't really sound good. And it's just not audibly appealing to hear. Some of you guys may not have any issue with how it sounds. I have talked to people who say they actually like how this car sounds, but just me personally, I don't like that raspy sound at the higher RPM. So yeah, I am definitely going to be making some changes to the exhaust setup on this car so that it sounds better, a little bit louder. Nothing crazy obviously, but just something to make it sound better. Alright, so moving on to number one, the thing that I dislike most about this car. So this is the one thing I did not even consider or even thought about before buying this car, and that is how low the front bumper sits. As you guys can see, I have a front lip on this car, and I am also lowered on lowering springs. Can you believe that? This height here, let me zoom out a little bit. This height here is just lowering springs. You would think it's coilovers, but it's only lowering springs. Like, this is how my stance looked on my F30, which had coilovers. But here, this car, it looks like it's on coilovers, but it's only lowering springs. So yeah, I did not realize how low this car sits. And I mean, just taking a look at the front lip here on lowering springs, I already have barely any room, and I pretty much scrape going over any slight dip. I have to take a significant angle so I don't scrape and destroy this front lip. And you guys already know, this is actually my second front lip because I damaged the front lip, the very first one I got, because I did not know how to navigate this car with how low it is in the front. So I destroyed that lip, and this is now my second lip. So far, this front lip has lasted, I believe, about a month or two. And that's because I know how to navigate now with this car, but I still scrape going over everything, and that's why I have scrape guards. As you guys can see right there, I have scrape guards all along the bottom front of the lip there. So far, they've done a really good job preventing damage to this front lip. But yeah, guys, this is just on lowering springs. And yeah, just with how low the front bumper sits on this car, it has made driving this car kind of annoying, because now I have to consider where I'm driving, how I'm driving. I gotta take an angle over any slight dip so that I don't scrape or destroy the front bumper, or the front lip, excuse me. And it just pretty much dictates where I drive. And sometimes I have to take a detour that has the least amount of, dips so that I don't scrape, rather than taking another route that's quicker but it has, more dips. So it prevents me from just driving the car wherever. I have to plan my route out wherever I go so that I can avoid all the dips that I might run into that I know about in my area. And yeah, it just makes me nervous. It makes me anxious driving this car sometimes, because you never know when I'm going to run into some dip in the road. Because I know for a fact I do not have that much clearance to make really bad dips, at least. Or I'm gonna have to slow down significantly and hold up traffic. It's just a nuisance sometimes. So yeah, that's why this is the most annoying thing about this car. I'm honestly not 100% sure why I always scrape. I'm assuming it's just because the front bumper is just so low, like it sits so low, lower than like the F30 I had and my E90, because I hardly scrape on my E90 going over the same dips that I go through with this car, but this car scrapes significantly more. Those cars run coilovers, this is on lowering springs. I don't know, it's just the way this car sits is just way lower than those cars. If I didn't care about being low, this really wouldn't be an issue, because I didn't really scrape on anything when I was just on the stock height, obviously. But I wanted to have that, flush wheel stance and fitment. As you can see, it's pretty nice on these 666M wheels. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to go any lower than this. I honestly do not even need coilovers, which is what I was planning to do initially. But after seeing how low the car is already, you don't even need coilovers. And I'm already dealing with this scraping, and I don't really want to have to deal with that any more than I already am. So yeah, that is why the ride height of this car, the front end of this car, is the thing I dislike most about it, because it just, I would say, moderately to significantly impacts your driving habits and the way you drive, how you drive, where you drive. It just makes it annoying to drive because you can't just drive anywhere. And like I said, this only matters really if you're lowered, but if you're not lowered, it really isn't that much of an issue. But since I am, it has turned into a pretty annoying thing about this car. And it's not just me. I've talked to other F80, F82 owners, and they've gone through tons of front lips because they end up destroying them. And yeah, so this is just a common thing on this car from what I've noticed so far. You're most likely going to damage at least your first front lip you put on this car. Maybe after that you learn, like how I did, like how to navigate so you don't, you know, destroy the front lip or damage it. But yeah, that is easily the thing I find most annoying about this car and the thing I dislike most about this car. Now again, you won't even have this issue if you aren't lowered, but most of us like to modify our cars and we want to lower it to get that nice wheel fitment. But if you do, just be prepared. You're gonna have to deal with scraping and, you know, your driving habits changing so that you don't damage the front lip. So those are the 4 things that I dislike most about my F80 M3. And again, some of these things you may not even care about, may not even notice, but for me personally, these 4 things do bother me sometimes. Now overall, those 4 things are still very minor and insignificant. I still absolutely love this car. It is still a dream come true, and it lives up to the hype. It is still pretty much everything I imagined it to be prior to actually buying it, aside from those 4 things, but those are very small things, like I said, that just make it imperfect, but near perfect, very close to being perfect. Everything else on this car I absolutely love, no complaints whatsoever, and exceeded my expectations. So yeah, as usual, let me know what you guys think of the 4 things that I mentioned that I disliked with this car, and maybe some of you guys have some solutions to these things I don't like about the car. Feel free to comment your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below the video. And yeah, I think that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. As always, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more content if you liked what you saw. Also, feel free to check out inline6auto.com if you're looking for any aftermarket upgrades for your BMW. I have it linked in the description of this video if you guys want to check it out. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video.